Alright boys, charged with light mods. That's what you came here to see and to finally understand, because let's face it, it's kind of really confusing, and yeah, you're most likely confused. So I'm here to solve that. I will not only cover all the mods, including the final 6 that just became available to us yesterday, but also how to use them efficiently and correctly. I will give a little example here. What was to happen if I were to run 2 empowered finish mods and get 1 kill? Will it give me 2 stacks of charge with light or just 1? I will be answering that later on. So, Senpai myfi, alright, is here to provide you all with the best information on these mods, and my goal here is to have you walk away from this video with a full understanding of these mods and how they work. Before we do start, if you are new around here, and only if you find my videos helpful, or you just like the content because you like my voice or just some reason, then be sure to subscribe. Also, I stream over on twitch.tv/myfi with an underscore at the end. Come by and say hi, you know. And with all that said, let's get into these mods. So to start us out, I will go over some basics just to lay down some starting foundation so you will have a better time understanding as we go. There are a total of 16 of these new charged with light mods. 4 of the 16 mods are given to us immediately, and these are the only 4 mods that do not require a certain affinity on an armor piece for it to be applied. And as for the other 12 of the 16 mods, they will require you to upgrade the 4 obelisk across the solar system to rank 10 to fully acquire all of them. Out of the 4 mods we are given immediately, 3 of them charge you with light and 1 consumes light. Now, what is this light thing, you may be asking? Does it affect my super or my abilities? I know my Guardian is borderline powered on light, like I'm plugged into a Tesla supercharge, but no, it has nothing to do with really your super or anything like that. It's just a buff on the left side of your screen. That's really all it is. It's just a buff. So the 4 mods that we have right off the bat are as follows. Taking charge, where you become charged with light by picking up orbs of light. Shield break charge, where you become charged with light by breaking an enemy's shield with the matching element type. Empowered finish, where you become charged with light by finishing a combatant. This one does consume 1/10 of your super. And finally, high energy fire, where while charged with light, you gain a bonus to weapon damage. Each enemy consumes 1 stack of charge with light. As you could tell, 3 of those charge us with light and 1 consumes light. I will go ahead and say right here that you can only have up to 2 stacks of charged with light. Just so later on the video you don't get confused. The standard is 2. It can be increased further by mods that we will get into later on. Now that I have told you some of these mods, let's go ahead and explain the basics of how they work with your armor so you can better understand. First, only 1 charged with light mod, either giving or consuming light, can be put on a piece of armor at a time. And yes, it does have to be the new Season of Dawn armor. So by only 1 mod being able to be slotted in a piece of armor at a time, what this means is that you have to spread these mods across multiple pieces of armor to get them to work. If you only have mods that charge you with light on your armor pieces and have no mods that consume light, you're pretty much wasting it. Yes, there are a few mods that do have what is called secondary perks, and those mods can be used without, having a mod that consumes your light, but it's, in my opinion, not worth the mod slot. Charged with light mods really only have one purpose, in my opinion, and that purpose is to fuel the mods that consume light. Charged with light mods is like you're putting fuel into something, and then the consuming light mods take that fuel out and use it. Mods that charge with light borderline give you no actual benefits, as where mods that consume that light will normally give you some sort of benefit, as we saw with high fire energy, where it gave you extra damage against enemies. Now that we understand how these mods work with our armor, let's divide up these 16 mods into categories. First category is going to be the charged with light, where the mods actually will charge you with light. We have 6 of the 16 mods here, and you guessed it, these 16 mods charge you with light. The next category is going to be consuming light. We have 7 out of the 16 here, and yes, all these mods will consume light. And finally, there are what I like to call passive mods. We have the final 3 out of the 16 here, and these are a little weird because they don't directly charge with light or consume light, but they do aid in the grand scheme of things, or just all these mods in general. The charged with light category mods are as follows: taking charge, shield break charge, and empowered finish, which we already discussed. And remember, these do not require a certain armor affinity. The ones we did not discuss already are quick charge, where you become charged with light by rapidly defeating enemies with fusion rifles or shotguns, and this will require an arc affinity piece of armor, but also has something else that we really haven't discussed yet, a secondary perk, like I said a little bit earlier. We will discuss the secondary mod perk in a minute. Next is blast radius, where you become charged with light by rapidly defeating multiple enemies with grenade launchers or rocket launchers, and this is tied to the solar affinity armor. And finally, precisely charged, where you become charged with light by getting multiple rapid precision final blows with linear fusion rifles or sniper rifles. And here we see the exact opposite of what we saw with secondary perks, and that would be a penalty to stats. This exact mod actually gives a -10 to discipline, and we will discuss this penalty to stats when we discuss secondary perks. Also, this mod is tied to the void affinity armor. Now let's go ahead and talk about the secondary perks. Some of these mods have that I just mentioned alongside the mods that have a penalty to stats. Secondary perks are only on mods that are tied to arc affinity armor, and they give an extra benefit when another arc armor mod is slotted into the same piece of armor as these corresponding new mods. Example is if I were to put quick charge, which we just discussed, into my arc affinity leg armor, then right next to it I put a machine gun scavenger mod, which, as we all know, machine gun mods are linked to arc armor, then I will activate the secondary perk for the mod quick charge, which will in return greatly increase ready speeds of fusion rifles, shotguns, submachine guns, and swords. Now, the mods that give a penalty to stats are all linked to void affinity, and these are super simple, as just by slotting one of these mods into your armor will in turn have some form of penalty corresponding to what penalty the mod states. So to tie this part up, all we have to remember is that arc affinity mods give you some form of a secondary perk, void affinity mods give you some form of a stat penalty, and finally solar affinity mods have neither a secondary perk nor a stat penalty, but solar affinity mods can be stacked across multiple armor pieces to increase the effect of the mod, and solar affinity mods are the only mods that have this ability out of these 16 mods. Next, we have the consuming light category, which contains 7 of the 16 mods. The first mod, high energy fire, we already discussed. So moving on to the next mod, we have striking light, which spawns 1 orb of light for defeating enemies with melee or swords, and will consume 1 stack of charged with light. It is arc, and the secondary perk is you gain damage resistance to enemies while sprinting. Heavy-handed, which is where you regain half your melee energy when using a fully charged melee ability, and this consumes 1 stack of charged with light. This is tied to arc, and the secondary perk is while surrounded by multiple enemies, defeating an enemy with a fusion, shotgun, sidearm, or sub adds ammo to your reserves. Next is heal thyself, which while charged with light, grenade final blows heal yourself. This is a solar affinity and can be stacked to further increase the healing effect. Firepower, which when charged with light, regain a portion of your grenade energy when you use your grenade, consuming 1 stack of charge with light. This mod is solar as well, so it can be stacked to further increase the grenade energy regain. Next is Protective Light, which when charged with light is where you gain significant damage resistance when your shields are destroyed, but this mod does consume all stacks of light, and the more stacks consumed, the longer the damage resistance lasts. Finally, it is void, and it does have a -10 to strength. And for the final mod in this category, we have Extra Reserves, which when charged with light, defeating enemies with void damage has a chance to drop special ammo, and this does consume all stacks. The more stacks consumed, the higher the chance for special ammo to actually be dropped. And this is void affinity, so it will have a -10 to intellect. Now time for the passive mods category, which has 3 mods in it, and they are as follows. Powerful Friends, where when you become charged with light, nearby allies also become charged with light if they are not already. This is tied to arc affinity, and the secondary perk is a +20 to mobility. Next is Charged Up, which allows 1 additional stack of charged with light and is linked to solar affinity. Because it is linked to the solar affinity, this mod can be stacked across multiple armor pieces to increase its effect, effectively allowing you to go from just 2 base charged with lights upwards of however many, depending on however many, armor pieces you put this mod in. And finally, we have Stacks on Stacks, which is where you gain an extra stack of charge with light for every stack you gain. And this is tied to void and has a stat penalty of -10 to recovery. Okay, now that we have all the mods covered, I can explain what an example of a full armor set utilizing all these pieces with these mods, while also giving some useful information. So to start us out, we will of course need to put some mods that will charge us with light, as we need fuel for the mods that consume light. So for my headpiece, I will put on a shield break charge mod, which will give me 1 stack of charged with light every time I break an enemy's shield with a matching element. Then I will use Charged Up, which allows for 1 additional stack of charge with light on my arms and chest. Remember, Charged Up is a solar affinity like I just said previously, so the effects do stack, which will give me an additional 2 stacks. Because I'm putting them on my arms and my chest, so that will effectively raise my stacks from 2 to 4. Now for my legs, I will slot on an Extra Reserves for a chance to obtain special ammo on void final blows, and with my current mods giving me up to 4 stacks, it will be a very good chance for it to actually drop. And finally, on my class item, I will be running Striking Light for damage resistance when running after getting a melee killed. I feel this build synergizes pretty well. Of course, this isn't the end-all be-all build, this is just an example, but because of me being able to acquire charge with light just by breaking an enemy's shield, literally if you were to break an enemy shield, let them regen that shield and then re-break it, you would get another charged with light. That is like one of those little examples that not many people know. Then the ability to hold more than the standard 2 stacks thanks to Charged Up, stacking on my arms and chest. Then I use that light for a chance at special ammo by just getting a void kill. Then I'm also harder to kill up close when I get a melee and start sprinting. So yeah, that's that kind of example of a good, or what I think to be an alright synergized armor set. So there we go. Hopefully I did a good job at explaining it for you all. Hopefully you all have a better understanding of it now. Of course, I don't have all these mods unlocked, as the other 2 obelisks just became available yesterday and I wasn't sitting on a million fractaline. So I'm still working on getting them upgraded. What mods are you all getting? Like, what Like, what mods are you all looking to use? I'm actually curious. Give me a good build in the comment section below. Give me multiple good builds because I want to know. And if you all do want my opinion, I know I'm not supposed to voice my own opinion here, but if y'all do want my opinion, I think you could go through this entire season without touching these mods. These mods right now play no major role in the season, unless later on, maybe during like Heroic Sundial, they become essential to like the core mechanics of the actual Sundial itself, then, you know, maybe. But besides that, I think you could go through the entire season without using these mods, and that's just my personal opinion. Will I be using them? Yes. Will I try to make good builds? Yes. Because am I a crazy min-max person? Yes. But are these mods for everyone, and do you need to use these mods? No. That's just my opinion. So yeah, hopefully I did do a good job with explaining this to you all. It was pretty long of a video, so thanks for sticking around if you did. If you did, I love you. And yeah, with all that said, I hope you all have a good one, and I will catch you all in the next one. Peace.